I read 32 books this year, and 9 of them were mysteries, and 2 of them were thrillers. Hi, my name is Amanda Fagan, and I am a writer, but if you want to be a good writer, you must be a good reader too. And it was my goal to read 30 books this year, and I read 32. And my second most read genre was mystery, but I thought I'd include some thrillers in here as well since I didn't read enough thrillers to make a separate video for them. I read 2 thrillers, but they're very similar in genre, so I'll include them. I'm going to be rating mysteries based on 5 factors, and I put a lot of thought into this because mystery is my favorite genre and has been ever since I was 5 years old, and Scooby-Doo was my gateway into the genre of mystery. Over 15 years of mystery consumption, and I'm very picky, very picky. I was raised on BBC murder mysteries, okay? I'm going to be picky. And I want to be picky because I want you to read a good mystery too. So if I rate the book above 3 stars, I enjoyed it no matter what. So even if a book gets 3.1 stars, I still think it's worth reading. I can't give every book 5. I have to be fair. I have to be reasonable. I'm going to be rating mysteries based on 5 things. Number 1, the plot, the writing. Is it a good mystery, or did you just make up the ending out of nowhere with no hints? Because that really bothers me. Number 2, character. Is your main character likable? Are your side characters good? Do I like your main character as much or more than your side characters? Or do I like them less? That's all going to play a factor into this. Number 3, page turner. So because there are some mysteries that are more thriller and some that are more slow, if it's a thriller, was it a very compelling one? And if it's a slow burn mystery, was it intriguing enough to keep me turning the pages? Number 4, theme. Was there an underlying theme in your book that really pulled at the heartstrings, like family, friendship, something deeper in there that I felt was worth reading in the book, and it wasn't just a mystery, there was more to it than that. And number 5, originality, because there are some books that I really love, but then I think, I've probably seen about 50 other books out there with the same premise if I just read the back. What sets yours apart? It's okay if you do a book on a topic that's been talked about many times before, but I want to see how original you are with the topic. Are you putting your own spin on it? Are you taking an angle I've never seen before? I'm going to give you props for that if you do. So those are the 5 things I'm basing them on. Let's get to it. The first mystery that I read this year was in January/February, and it was The Vampire of King Street by Asha Grayling, which this is a criminally underrated novel. Asha Grayling is a debut author, and I don't believe she has any other books out since this one, but this one is fantastic, and I wish it would have picked up way more steam so that way it would have flown off the shelves. The market is oversaturated with romance, and I'm not a romance hater, but I like when people are original and they take a genre that is so specifically, so often tied together with a trope, a genre like romance, and they turn it on its head, and they come up with something unique and new and well written. There's a good plot, there are fantastic characters, and it is a legal drama, a mystery, historical fiction, and there is a subtle slow burn in it. Another really strong theme in this book is found family. The story takes place in a society where vampires have been rampant throughout Europe, throughout history, but in recent years, they have been almost extinct, and the few that are left alive are kept by only the richest families as pets, wardens, servants, whatever you want to call them, basically to do the menial jobs around the house, and only the rich can afford them. Well, they have no rights, and they are just labor. Then, the main character of the story, who is an 1800s woman who is trying to start up her own law practice, but she's an 1800s woman, and she's also an immigrant, so it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And her office is suffering, but one night she's sleeping at her office and a vampire comes in, and he is asking for representation because he thinks a murder is about to be committed, and he's going to be framed for it. Because this is one of the best modern novels I have ever read. I miss when things were like well written and had substance in plot and character. I love romance, I love a good mystery, but I hate when there's not time put into it and it's rushed and it just feels like it's shot out at the market from a quick money grab. And I hate that because that's not what literature is supposed to be. Literature is art, and I could get so heated about this. I was so impressed by this novel, and I don't think I've read a modern novel that has made me feel this good ever since. I have read a lot of good modern novels, but this one was just so unique, and because of that, I'm going to have to give it a 6 out of 5 stars. So the next mystery that I read was around April, May, and it was Society of Lies by Lauren Ling Brown. The story is told from the perspective of two sisters at two different points in time, and little by little their plots are weaving into each other so that they finally connect and make sense at the end. And the older sister is a graduate of Princeton, and she used to belong to this secret society, but she kind of kept it a secret from her family because it was a dark part of her past that she wants to be forgotten. But because she failed to tell her family about the society, her younger sister, who follows in her footsteps and goes to Princeton, ends up joining the same society. And right before she's supposed to graduate, when her older sister goes to visit her younger sister, she's found dead. Her younger sister is found dead at the very beginning of the book. And the older sister realizes that her past experience in this society has to do with her sister's death. I've been taught in college while studying writing that you need to know all the tools of writing, but once you do, it's okay to break them. And I hate when people are too afraid to break the rules of writing. Yes, sometimes breaking the rules of writing does kind of make a story unconventional, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But I felt like Lauren Ling Brown did a great job breaking the rule of writing. Like, you have to stick to one main character. Oh, you have to tell it in a linear fashion. You can't be cyclical. You can't be episodic. She doesn't care. She's a screenwriter, and I totally saw her screenwriter flair in this, because you know what? If you know a lot of forms of writing, you know that you can mix and match. And I thought that was so creative, and I loved it. I don't even think there's closed door, but they do reference like some scandalous things going on, but I like that we never have to see any of it because I think it's unnecessary. I will say there is one writing device used in this book that at first I thought was original because it was the first book I ever read that used this writing device, but then after reading a few more mysteries, I realized it was actually a pretty common trope. However, I will say that of all of the books I read that use this kind of common device, I felt that Lauren Ling Brown did the best job with it because both plots were equally compelling. There were some books where I was kind of waiting to go back to the other plot, but this book I was kind of excited to be in each sister's head, and I felt that both sisters were equally likable and good characters, while in the other books, maybe one of the characters I just liked a lot more, and so I wanted to stick with their perspective. I just started off the year really strong, apparently, and I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5 stars because I genuinely enjoyed it a lot. The next mystery that I read was actually a very popular book talk mystery, I believe, and I wanted to read a book talk mystery because I never read books off book talk, and I felt I needed to give a few a chance this year, and so I read The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I decided to go with this one because I had seen a few other booktubers that I enjoyed say that they really liked this book and they also liked the twist in it, and I'm a big writing twist lover, so I picked it up. For most of the book, this was a page turner. I was intrigued. I read this, I think, in like 5 days during the beginning of summer, which was pretty good for me. I actually really loved the main character. I thought she was very well written, and she was a washed up actress from New York who goes to a house on the lake and stumbles across a possible husband trying to kill wife situation. The house is pretty much made of glass, and so she can see everything every night, and she can see them fighting, and she just wonders, should I get involved? I don't mean any disrespect to Riley Sager because I did really enjoy the book. I felt the plot twist, it was not well led up to. There was one thing in the entire book that barely foreshadowed it. It was like one thing, and it was genre changing. So that's what shocked me, was that there was no build up to it at all, and it was leading you in a completely other direction that there was no possible way you would have guessed. I've read several mysteries where they have a great plot twist, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it was there all along. Like I said, I did enjoy the book. It was very enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun. If you don't mind plot twists that just you can't guess, then maybe you would like this. It was a page turner, so I'm gonna give this a 3.5 stars. The next book that I read was actually my first book of the month book, and it was The Band Made of Smoke by Alex North. I will say that I have heard some people don't like this book because it is about a very dark theme, but I really liked the book. It is dark. It's probably one of the darkest mysteries I read this year, but I felt it was executed well. It is about a serial killer who kills young human beings. Once again, this story uses the same two characters are telling the story from the past and the present, but this time it's a father and a son. And the son is the main character of the book. And he was, I think, 12 years old, a young kid. He was on a road trip with his parents and a friend, and they stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. And when he walked in, he saw this other kid with this guy, and they were like talking, and it was kind of like creeping him out. And so he hid in one of the stalls and tried to listen. Then you flash forward to the present, and that kid found out that that was a serial killer. And that guy grows up haunted from it because he feels so horrible that he didn't do something even though he was a kid, and there was probably nothing he could have done. He just blames himself and decides to pursue psychology and be a therapist to prisoners because he wants to find out like why people do what they do. This takes place in the UK, and he was from an island off the coast of the UK, and he gets a message and they say, hey, you should probably come back to the island because your dad's missing. And he goes back and he starts to realize that his dad, who was a retired cop, felt the same amount of guilt that he did for not knowing that he was in the presence of a serial killer, and like, why didn't I do anything? And he felt like he kind of failed his son. There was a serial killer that was going around in present day, and he stumbled upon one of the victims, and he realized this could be connected or might even be the same killer. It was very dark, but I felt that the themes were very potent and impactful. And I actually cried at the end of the book, and I don't know if I was supposed to, but I felt like all of it just kind of hit me, like the emotional weight of the story. I felt like both the father and the son were very interesting, good characters. Like, they were both really compelling characters. Like Lauren Ling Brown, I really wanted to follow both of them the whole time. I'm gonna give it a 4.9 stars because I felt like it was very well written. So the next book that I read was another book of the month, and that was The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. And this one also follows the same writing device. That this was when I started realizing there's a pattern going on here with mystery books, where there's the person that was murdered telling the story and the person solving it is telling the story. I still really enjoyed it though, even though this is a trope that's being used in a lot of books. I think it can work really well, and that's why people are using it. Just basically, there's a author, and she's kind of blackballed right now in the industry because she got into a row. Kind of, it wasn't a big row, but basically she said something at a writing convention about a really, really famous writer, and they didn't like that, and she got blackballed, and so now she can't find any jobs, and she has distanced herself from her father, who was essentially Stephen King. It was because he was so popular, also because his siblings were murdered in the 80s, and he was the only survivor, and some people made stories and rumors that he killed them, and so that added to his fame. The daughter has distanced herself from her father, wants to make her own career, but he reaches out to her after not talking for a while and says, hey, I want you to come back home. I want you to ghostwrite my last book for me because I'm getting a disease which is making me forget my memories, and I'm not going to be living for that much longer. And I've written down what I can remember, and I want to tell the story of what really happened to my siblings that night in the 80s. I thought that the mystery was very well written. When you find out what did happen, I will say there is a very triggering element in this book that may be traumatic for some people, so I thought I'd make that clear. I thought the plot was very good, and I cried. I cried a lot at the end. Like, it was heavy emotionally. Like, even thinking of it now makes me want to tear up a little bit because it was good. It was sad. Like, it was good. I thought that the main character, I was more compelled by the siblings of the past. I felt that a lot of her exposition was told rather than shown, and I felt that if I had seen what she'd gone through, I would have felt it more potently, because there was one scene where you finally see what she saw, and I actually felt really impacted by that. But then I kind of felt cheated because there's so many other scenes in the beginning where she just tells you what happens. There's actually one scene where you actually get to sit in it with her and really experience it, and I felt that that was really impactful. And so it showed me like Julie Clark has the power to make you feel that. I'm making these reviews too long. I can't talk about every single point about the book because I'd be here all day. I'm gonna give this one a 3.7 stars. 3.7 out of 5 stars. This next book I'm not going to take a super long time on because I talked about it more in detail in this video over here, and I really loved it. The Rushworth Family Plot by Claudia Gray, which is actually the fourth in a Jane Austen next generation murder mystery. And Claudia Gray creates these characters, and they just feel so compelling, so fun to follow. They have depth, they have really cool qualities. I love that the main character of the book is neurodivergent, possibly autistic. I love that. He's such a strong character. Also, we have the other lead, who is a great female lead, Miss Tilney. I love her. I feel like both characters have such differing qualities, but they just pair so well together. I love that it's been a slow burn over 4 books, but this book, it's finally starting to come together. But it's the Regency era, and Claudia Gray stays true to the Regency era and doesn't add in all the, like, we're gonna go, like, make out in a hallway or something. Like, no, they cannot be alone together because it is scandalous. And I love it because she still brings the drama, and there was drama this time because there was a lot of scandal in this book, but Regency level scandal, and it had to do with paintings, and there's like society whispers, and also there was a duel, and it was so good, and there was so many references to Much Ado About Nothing as well in this book, which I hadn't read the play at the time, and now looking back after reading the play, I realized how well done it was. The mystery was really hard to guess. I thought I was getting it, and then I just flipped it on its head. I talked about it so much more in this video, and it was my book of the year at the time, and I don't know if it's my book of the year anymore because I've read so many good books, but it's still a 6 out of 5 stars for me. So this next book is actually a thriller, and it's probably the least mystery-esque of the books I'm going to be talking about. It does have an element of mystery in it, but it is a thriller, not a mystery. And it is Assassins Anonymous by Rob Hart. I picked this up at a Barnes & Noble during the summer, and it was their monthly pick. And I actually am going to be talking about 2 monthly picks in this video, but this was their thriller. So I really liked this book initially. I thought it was a really interesting premise. It kind of reminded me of Bullet Train, which is one of my favorite movies. And also I had just finished The Punisher, and I was super into watching that around the same time. So I was just like, wow, Bullet Train, Punisher vibes with also like an element of mystery. And it's about this assassin who he wants to leave this life behind because he wants to be a better person, and he's found a sponsor and has joined this group of assassins who it's like Assassins Anonymous. We all were past assassins, and we want to be better people and move past that. These people, all of a sudden, like the agency he worked for puts out a bid or something. They're like, hey, if you all kill him, you get money. He's like trying not to kill people. And they all want to kill him. And he's like, no, I need to have my 1 year of not killing people. So now that I think about it, it is very Bullet Train-esque. I felt like they had similar premises of main assassin doesn't want to kill people anymore. I felt there was one good plot twist in there that I thought was kind of sneaky. I wouldn't have guessed it, and I thought it was hinted to, so I felt like it wasn't a cheap twist, and it did add a lot to the story. But I felt like the ending and then certain deaths in the story they weren't necessary, or they weren't impactful. One in particular I won't say. It just felt wrong or unnecessary, didn't add anything to the plot. Like it just, I don't know, the way it was executed and where it was placed in the plot. And like I said, I felt like at first I was really into it, and I'm not the biggest action book person apparently. I didn't know that. So it might not even, like I don't want to say this book was bad because it wasn't. It was really fun. I think I'm going to give it like a 3.2 stars. If you like thrillers and you really like action, I think you really would like this book. So this next book was the last book I read this summer, and it was also the last book of the month I've read this year. Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. And I really enjoyed this one. Once again, it follows the same mystery writing thing where character in the present, murdered character in the past. Their stories are being told and coming back together. I can't say it because it would spoil it, but one of the perspectives, you don't realize that it's been set up all along how they're going to intertwine, and you think you have it figured out, and then boom, there's like a huge twist that you're just like, what? The premise of the book is about this girl who, her sister died when she was younger, her older sister who she looked up to, and she's been dead for years. She's moved to the city, she's grown up, she's pursuing her writing career, it's not going great, so she's trying to do more independent stuff, but it's kind of not working for her. There's this guy that she's kind of interested in, but he gets her job, and so she's kind of like, I think I need to take a break from the city, this life. She goes to stay with her mom, and then she just feels like things are off, like the house isn't changed at all since her sister died. She just feels like her mom doesn't want her there, so she goes to leave. But then she's looking through a box of her sister's things, and she remembers the vineyard where her sister spent her last summer at an internship she really loved. And so she decides, I'm going to go to that vineyard. She goes, she finds out that they're actually hiring, and she decides to interview, gets the job. This is the first 2 chapters, not spoilers. And she decides, I'm going to live at this vineyard and not tell my mom that I'm staying in town because I don't want to be around her. I just want to experience my sister's life, like how she did that summer before she died. And she starts to realize that maybe her sister's death isn't what it what the world thought it was. And maybe there's clues left on this vineyard, even all these years later. And it's so good. I really enjoyed it. It was a page turner. I went to the beach and was beach reading away. It was so fun. Did I like it more than The Man Made of Smoke? That's the question, because I feel like they're very different. This one is not as dark as The Man Made of Smoke. And I feel like I didn't cry as much in this one as I did The Man Made of Smoke. But they are like, I did kind of enjoy them very similarly. I'm going to give this one a 4.8 stars. I did really thoroughly enjoy it, but I think I like The Man Made of Smoke more. I just felt like the writing was just a little bit better, but this was really well written. I did really like this. This is probably one of my favorite mysteries I read this year. The next book that I read was the second thriller, and it did have more mystery elements than the first, but it is still more of a thriller than a mystery, and that is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, which actually my mom bought this for me because she listened to the audiobook, and my mom's been trying to get into reading more this year. Frida McFadden got her out of her reading slump, and she read 5 of her books via audiobook really quickly. And my mom's usually pretty slow with books, so she loved this, and she was like, you have to read this, it's so good. And I really did enjoy this. This was a page turner. I got through this in a few days. There is like a really good plot twist in it. Basically, it follows this housemaid where she was on parole. She's been living in her car, and she needs to find work so that way she can stay on parole and not go back to prison. And you don't really know much about her backstory, but she gets this job at the Winchesters. They're this very rich family in New York. They have a big house, and she gets to be a live-in housemaid, and it seems too good to be true, and it is. I think it was my favorite thriller I've read this year. I don't think it was my favorite mystery, but I did really enjoy it, and I'm trying to think how to rate it because I think this is technically a different genre than the mysteries, so I have to rate it in a different way. I did really enjoy it. You know what? I'm going to give it a 4.7 stars. I did really thoroughly enjoy it. This next book is the second to last mystery I read this year, and it is 640 to Montreal. And this was also another monthly pick from Barnes & Noble, and I got it at the same Barnes & Noble that I got the other one, which is kind of funny because it's one that I don't go to that much, but then both times I was there, they have really good salespeople, and they were like, monthly pick, and they convinced me. So I picked this up because I was going on a trip, and I wanted something to read, and I wanted something Christmassy, and I just felt like all the Christmas books were romances, and I just wanted a different genre, and so this one was a snowy mystery, so I thought, perfect. It was very intriguing, but I felt like the main character was dislikable. And then every time I thought like they'd give me a reason, like, oh, she's acting like this because of this, I'd start feeling sympathetic and liking her. And then she'd do something else that was like really messed up. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to root for you. I couldn't tell if I was supposed to like her or not. For example, she'd start being this certain way. You're like, I don't like you. Like, why are you doing that? That's kind of mean. And then you'd find out why she's doing it. And you go, oh my, I'm sorry for assuming the worst. And then she does something else. And it's like, yeah, I did this horrible thing. You did what? Why am I supposed to root for you? But I thought that the side characters were very well written and very fascinating people. Like, I was so invested in all the side plots. This writer, she's trying to write her next book, but she's having a hard time coming up with ideas. Her husband buys her a train ticket, so that way she can go to the city, and it'll be a long train ride, and she can type, and there'll be no Wi-Fi, so she can just get all her ideas out and not be distracted. But then the train car stops, and she's stuck with a bunch of people, and then all this stuff starts going crazy wrong. There's a murder. They're trying to figure out what happened. I felt like all the characters stuck in the car were very, very well done. They were very well developed. Like, each one I was really invested in, and I wanted to know all the characters. Like, I felt like across the board, they're all good characters. I think I actually liked the main character the least, which I wasn't expecting. But she did have depth, at least. Like, she did have like a reason for why she was the way she was. But I felt like when we got to the end and we found out what really happened, it kind of felt a little cheap. Kind of like The House Across the Lake, where there's a twist where you're like, okay, it was hinted a little bit more than The House Across the Lake was. But I felt like The House Across the Lake had a more noble main character than this one did. And I felt like the ending kind of made me like the main character even less. But I did enjoy it. I was invested. I really was. But I'm going to give it a 3.25 stars out of 5. Last but not least, which I was kind of subtly hinting at it in this video. I don't know if you noticed. Stranger Things, one way or another. a Nancy Wheeler mystery. This takes place between season 4 and 5, and if I'm not mistaken, this is canon. It is canon to 4 and 5, and it shows us a little bit about Nancy, Robin, and even a little bit of Jonathan, Steve, and a dash of Mike in the Wheelers in between. I thought it was really well done because it's a mystery, but it's actually not focused on the Upside Down. It's focused more on the military presence in the town, the aftermath of season 4. And Nancy's still like, I want to go to college, but I don't know if I can go unless I help my friends defeat Vecna before I go. So she's so focused on trying to find some evidence of him and what happened to him. Why is he gone? Why is there no evidence of him coming back? Like, how are we going to find him and defeat him? How am I ever going to go to college? How am I ever going to get out of this town? She stumbles across a different mystery that is actually a more of a government real world mystery. She finds a murdered victim and then gets this drawn into this murder mystery. It was also written by one of the show writers. She actually wrote, I believe, episode 3 of season 4 and episode 3 of season 5. She wrote The Monster and the Superhero, and she wrote The Turnbow Trap in season 5, which was one of my favorite episodes. She pops off. She pops off. The mystery was really well done, where it's actually hinted from the start, but you don't even realize it until the end. And there is such high stakes, very high stakes. The characters felt more in character in here than in season 5. It made me cry. I even highlighted a few moments in the book because I was just reading it and it just impacted me so much. One paragraph in particular, I'm like, I need to apply this to my real life because it was just so good. So this is in chapter 2, but there's this character that says, I'll spare you all the angst and I'll skip straight to the ending because that's my secret. If you know your ending, then everything that happens along the way just becomes stuff that happens. It's so much less important and so much less terrifying than we give it credit for. If you live like your future is certain, then it will be. And I felt like that was such great advice, and it was given at a graduation ceremony in the book, and I was like, dang, I'm graduating from college this year. I'm going to give it a 4.9 stars. I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. And I'm not just saying that because I love Stranger Things. This was really well written, and I was genuinely shocked by how well written it was and how intriguing it was.